Hello. So, kind of continuing the reflection time series? I mean, I'm gonna be doing this for pretty much every draft I do, so I guess it's technically a series. Um, Forgot I'm supposed to keep my mic closer to me so, I actually can be heard. Um, so yeah, we've got. This was the first one I was really gonna do a draft reflection for, and this was GSC Season 1. On screen, you can see the original draft. We've got Dragapult, Florges, Fortress, Landorus Incarnate with Sand Force, Magnezone, Mandibuzz, Mega Medicham, Tapu Fini, Torracat Serena, and Cantonian Weezing. So the whole point of this was kind of look back and see the good points of the draft, see bad points of the draft, see where things could have improved, did anything improved with things like transactions, and what more could have been done. So, yeah, that's what this is kind of mainly about. So, as for the original draft itself, I feel like it was definitely filled with Pokemon that worked but didn't synergize well. And I think it was also... I tried to go with... So the thing about this draft in particular, this was my first singles draft in 4 years. Especially because I didn't play much singles. I didn't play much Gen 8 singles at all. Gen 7 singles I touched briefly at the start and then towards the end. So I kind of missed out on a decent amount. So I wasn't really sure of what a lot of Pokemon did and what was good at the minute. So I kind of chose to go with comfort picks. That was the whole point of this. I somehow made playoffs with it. But yeah. I definitely think that was a combination of, just learning what the good Pokemon on the team were and, kind of figuring out. And play is pretty important in that as well. Play was really, really important to kind of get into the right position with the pieces that I had. So, the original draft for those... Yeah, no, I've already said the original draft, yeah. I'm sorry, I've only been up an hour, so it's like, yeah. So let's talk about the strengths and weaknesses of this original draft. The type combinations I feel like were good. We had the good Fairy Dragon Steel core, we had the Fire Grass core. I think the typings are really good. And the speed tiers, I think, were alright as well. Obviously, having Dragapult is really, really good. Just because there's so few things that outspeed it, and it kind of forced a Scarf for every week, which was kind of the idea. Though I feel like speed tiers are a little... It's good to have in singles, but I don't know how much more important it was. Because, like, for me, when I was drafting, like, it really didn't feel as important to have a speed just because it was singles and not doubles. So, maybe that was a mistake on my part, but I wasn't sure. So, it was kind of, like... I tried to make sure there were pieces on the team that made sense, but, I don't know how much they ended up working together. So I also want to say a special thank you to Sam and Flygon. Flygon was someone who was helping me throughout the draft, and we always kind of talked a bit about the matchup for a couple hours. Threw around some ideas before settling on the final team, so huge shout out to Flygon throughout the whole season for this. And Sam was someone who I actually contacted about saying, listen, I want to improve, I want to look back at this draft and say, what could I have done better? And Sam went all out. They gave me like 6 paragraphs or more like worth of just text, which to some people might be really overwhelming. For me, is like actually like bliss. Going back and reading over it, because they said like this, the whole idea of this was like, it was like a month ago at this point that we kind of like started talking about different like ways that the draft could have been improved. So yeah, like, it was really, really helpful to just, like, read all these paragraphs, and talking with Flygon was super, super helpful as well. So yeah. The original draft, I think, definitely suffered. From a couple things. First of all, hazard setters. Week 1 I brought Fortress, and I never brought it again, because it died too quickly. And then it was Landorus, and that was my rocker for the entire season. And it turns out hazards are good. I think I've undervalued them greatly. I just thought, everyone's gonna have a defogger, everyone's gonna have a rapid spinner, but it, like, the opportunity cost of having to bring those, I think, is kind of something I undervalued. So it kind of meant that my Landorus, instead of being an offensive threat, oftentimes came as just a bulky support Pokemon. Because it was supposed to be there to set up rocks and maybe dish out a bit of damage. Which would have been fine if it was Lando T, because then it could have come in, intimidated it, and had better bulk. But Landorus Incarnate doesn't really do that as well, so it was kind of an awkward one. But actually it ended up being an incredible Pokemon as soon as I realized, like, that was important, how big Stealth Rocks were. But Fortress ended up just never coming because, like, the typing was, in theory, good, but just, like, it felt like it just died too quickly. Because of that base 60 special defense, it felt like just any 2 special hits and it was gone. So, and I was like, well, the whole point is it's supposed to be another rapid spinner, but, like, the hazard removal on this team was insane. It was one of the really, really good points of it. The hazard removal on this team was, like, some of the best in the entire draft, because we had Finny, we had Florges, we had Serena, and we had Mandibuzz. And at the start we had a Fortress, but we ended up getting rid of that later, of course. So we ended up having 4 to 5 removal on the team. So, like, people were just discouraged from bringing hazards against me anyway. Like, they'd at most bring rocks to force them away. So it was like, I had options, and that was a really good thing. I really liked having the choice of who was going to have the hazard removal. It often went to Mandibuzz, but sometimes it went to Finny, and I think once it maybe went to Florges. I can't quite remember. Maybe even went to Serena once, I don't even remember. Serena only came a couple times. Even once, maybe. I can't remember. Because we didn't end up playing every week, because we got a couple forfeit wins. But yeah, it only came once. And that was AV to beat Mega Swampert. Again, it feels like this is another draft where I've drafted Serena. I felt like I could have done more with it. So yeah, it's a Pokemon I like, but I just guess I'm a little, I don't know. I just didn't feel like I could utilize it when I just kind of had my top 6 Mons. Magnezone, who eventually became Magneton. In fact, I don't think I actually brought it when it was a Magneton, but Magnezone we brought a couple times, I think. We brought it week 2 and 3. And, like, it was pretty alright. Like, did we scarf it both times? We scarfed it both times. Just because I ended up trying to use it as my fast electric attacker. Because, like, the steel I didn't feel like I actually needed as much. The kind of defensive cores that I had kind of made it so that the steel typing didn't really feel like I was using it defensively. It felt like I was more trying to use it as a fast electric type. Which maybe that wasn't the correct way to use it, but it just, like, that's kind of the role it ended up filling. Torracat was, it was a low tier pick, but honestly it kind of ended up hurting me because, like, as we saw throughout the first, like, part of the season, I really needed a fire type because, like, I was forced to bring Magnezone to deal with some fairies, and, like, yeah, like, Magnezone wasn't the best at just dealing with fairies, because, you know, there's a lot of things that want to just switch in onto Magnezone. So, like, missing on that fire type was actually really hurt. Originally I had Delphox over Fortress, and then people were like, please, just, you need something else with rocks. You need another hazard center, so I grabbed Fortress instead. But not having a fire type really hurt me throughout the first, like, half of the season. I think I'm kind of, like, glossing over it, but I really need to talk about this. Finny was not good. I want to say it was good. It really hurt this team a lot more than I think I realized. We'll get to the the second, like, part of the draft, where we kind of made our switches so we essentially grabbed Entei. We dropped Torracat for Bastiodon, and we ended up dropping, what was it? Fortress for Magneton. So we still had another rocker, but we never brought it. It was there as a placeholder, essentially. And then we had Entei. And Finny really hurt some of the strategies that I wanted to go with. The whole point of Finny was it was a good bulky water type that helped to remove variants, so I wouldn't be stalled out. But I ended up playing a lot slower very game than I think I intended. So it meant that Weezing never came once. Weezing was a Pokemon I was considering so much, and I just never ended up bringing it because it just, like, it had so much counter synergy with Finny that was unreal. It was a T-Spike setter, and T-Spikes in theory were really, really good, but I was using Finny every week. Like, there was, I think, like, maybe 1 week in which Finny didn't come, I want to say. Yeah, week 7, Finny didn't come, and every other week it came. Oh, it didn't come week 10 either. But week 10 we definitely were doing some interesting things. But Finny, it really helped some of the team's potential, because again, no T-Spikes and no Will-O-Wisp from Weezing. Mandibuzz could never run Toxic. And the Will-O-Wisp Hex set from Dragon Ball felt less good. And Entei's Sacrifice weren't going to burn. So all of these kind of potential options were really shut down by my own Finny. If this was a different bulky water type, I think we talked about it, like Manaphy was available. Manaphy would have probably been a better spot here. As a bulky water type, and I would have probably used it as a good bulky water type. In the past, in one of my, I think in the last Gen 6 team I actually laddered with, I used Rain Dance Manaphy, for the, I think it was Rain Dance Rest, Manaphy, and I love that Manaphy set, and that could have worked here, but it also could have been used as a Scarfer, and it's not like I needed the hazard removal, and Sam said this as well, it's like, you need to consider, like, multiple, like, each piece needs to have a role, even if they share types, they sometimes can serve different roles. Whereas this time, Finny was kind of the cleric anyway, so Florges was kind of the cleric anyway. So, like, Finny provided a little bit of an offensive pressure, but, like, different typings, but, like, really it didn't provide much more than that. So, yeah. It was kind of just awkward, where, like, the two of them kind of ended up sharing roles too much. So I think Finny somehow, despite being one of my most brought Pokemon, ended up kind of being a hamper on myself. I think we talked about Serena, like, it was good in theory, but it just ended up never really coming, because I never really needed the grass typing for each week. It was there as my grass type option. So I feel like I could have used it more. Scarf Serena was definitely something I considered. And also I think it's like, I was like, yeah, I can use it as a bulky option, like a bulky, like, a aromatherapy option. But again, like, Florges did that job already, so. Dragapult. It was the second pick to the whole draft. First of my picks. One of the top picks of the whole draft. And it was, again, a mistake. It was a Pokemon I knew was good for draft. It was versatile. It was super fast. You could go physical or special. But I think for me, it was too versatile. I didn't understand how to use Dragon Ball. And I think that was the mistake. I didn't understand how to use Dragon Balls, and it kind of hurt, because a lot of the time I was, like, trying to leave it to late game to help pick up KOs, and that was the whole point, right? But, like, it ended up just being that my bulkier offense pieces were kind of doing that job anyway. So Dragon Ball, I was treating like a child. I was treating it like, no, you stay back. You stay back. You're not here to fight. You're here to be saved for later, and then it would come in the late game and either just not be useful because its job was already done, or just die. So it was a Pokemon that I feel like it didn't understand. Um, Other than, the one time in which we brought the dumbest set on the planet and somehow it worked. I don't understand that, but that was it. I'll be honest, it was beautiful. But yeah, Dragapult was a Pokemon I don't think I understood correctly, and I think as a result, it was kind of a mistake of a pick for me. I think we kind of talked about Bastiodon. It was kind of just a filler slot. It was an extra rocker. I didn't really think about it too much. It was an extra rocker. It was an extra steel type. It was potential options, but it was never really going to come. Magneton, I think, had potential to come, but we kind of saw how little I brought Magnezone, and Magneton was supposed to just be there to kind of fill that role of just still having Magnezone essentially, but we got it on the cheaper. But yeah, I feel like the coverage really wasn't there for either of them. I think there was definitely options for Iron Defense Body Press with Magnezone, but yeah. Mega Medicham, that's another one I need to talk about. Mega Medicham was a Pokemon I didn't really understand at first, but then I kind of understood it a bit more. I bought it first week, and then I kind of dropped it for a couple of weeks, and then it kind of was a staple on the team when I realized how much damage it was doing. Really the week against the Fort Worth Fortress, when they kind of broke through their entire Regenerator core, was really a selling point for me. And I was like, yeah, cool, we're bringing this. It was good. It really helped just, like, break through teams. Maybe I should have run Bullet Punch on it more. I think that was something people said, like, really, you're not running Bullet Punch on it? I was like, no, I just want the coverage. And people were like, no, you should really run Bullet Punch on it. And I was like, alright, maybe I should run Bullet Punch on it a bit more. But yeah. So yeah, I think Mega Medicham was a Pokemon that, in theory, also paired well with Dragapult. This should have been Mega Mawile, or even Mega Venusaur. This was something Flygon suggested. If it was Mega Venusaur, then it would have kind of baited into Psychic types that Dragapult would have been able to kind of, destroy. So, yeah, like, that would have been a potential better option. Or, like, the other two divisions of the league had Mega Mawile, and it made sense why. Like, the whole core of Dragapult, Mawile, Mandibuzz was an established core, and I was like, I'm going to try Mega Medicham, because I felt more comfortable with Mega Medicham. And I did, but Mega Mawile would have been such a better pick. Even if it would have been multiple Steel types and multiple Fairies, they would have done different roles. Finny was going to be, Florges was going to be a supportive piece, whereas Mawile would have been an offensive piece. And even if I had Magnezone or Magneton or whatever, they would have been special offensive pieces or potentially bulky pieces to pivot with as well. So it was like they were going to do similar role. They weren't going to do similar roles even though they had similar typing. So yeah. Entei was a great pickup. I really needed that fire typing, and it really, like, despite me only winning one of the 4 weeks we ended up like having it, besides the forfeit win we got, we only won 1 week with it, and we brought it 3 times. It was really good. It really put on a lot of offensive pressure, but it was also kind of nice to have bulky. It was nice to have as a good switch into fairy types, which I felt like the team really needed. So, because it wasn't Mega Mawile. Like, the whole point of the Dragapult Mandibuzz Mega Mawile core is that you have a switch into fairies with Mawile, and it's like a super good answer to them. Whereas, like, I instead had 3 fairy type weeks at the top, and I was like, as some Pokemon I was wanting to consistently bring, and no switch-ins. So yeah, Entei kind of helped fill that gap. It was also a really, really good physical attacker. Something that like Medic did as well, but like, yeah, Entei was really, really solid piece. We kind of focused around our transactions around getting Entei, and I think it certainly helped, despite the records not really showing it. Like, in the last, like, it wasn't planned, but in the last, like, 4 weeks, two of our opponents had a Sizzle. Like, there was Mega Sizzle and regular Sizzle in our matchup. So having Entei was, in theory, like, really, really good, but they covered for it, so. So, yeah. I think there was a lot that could have been done about this draft that was a bit better. But, as I say, we need to look at the good points. And there's something that Flygon and Sam both said about this draft. What was the carries? It was Mandibus Florges. Was there a week that Mandibus Florges didn't come? No. Mandibus Florges came every single week. Because those two defensively were incredible. They were both supportive pieces. They could wish, they could heal. They provided defog, they provided taunt, they provided knockoff, they provided they provided so much, and they provided the stability of the team that without it, it wouldn't have survived. It would have got run over. And they were the best part, because they covered each other's types really well. And easily the best part of the draft. Without them, this team wouldn't have survived. Finny was kind of thrown in there in the core as well, but as kind of the quote-unquote defensive core. But really, even still, it was more Mandy and Florges. They did all the work. And Finny ended up kind of trending more to the offensive side anyway. And really utilizing, those two, along with whatever bulk I ended up bringing each week. We'd have, our bulkier Finny, which we could wish past to, Serena, which we'd wish past to, there was options to wish past to. I don't think we had the right bulkier pieces to wish past to, but, Florges just kind of being able to, sustain itself and be a bit of a stopping gap between pieces was really, really important. So yeah. This was a draft that, again, it was a lot of comfort picks and trying to go into this with Pokemon I felt more comfortable using. But I think what I learned was having a good defensive core is really nice. As again, Mandibuzz Florges was really, 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 really good. And I think there were certain pieces that were really good. Having some offensive pressure is also really important because it, forcing switches and also, just forcing your opponent's hand is really important. What I learned is sometimes too much versatility can cost me. Mainly with Dragon Ball. I just didn't understand Dragon Ball as a Pokemon, so that was kind of my main issue there. But, yeah. The counter synergy with Finny, I think, really hurt this team. And the lack of hazards. Granted, I think there would have been more hazard pressure because if Finny wasn't there, because then I would have been able to bring Weezing Ball and provide T-Spike support. Which would have been really nice for this team. But because Finny was often coming, it was just well, Weezing, it just isn't. So, because I needed that water typing a lot of the time. So, I feel like that was the mistake, really. And I think also this draft was also pretty top-heavy. I very rarely deviated outside of my top Pokemon. Honestly, the time that I most did it was week 2 when I brought Serena. And I guess week 1 with Fortress. And after that, I just didn't deviate from my top Pokemon. I would bring the top, 6 to 7 Pokemon every week, and that was it. I felt no reason to bring anything else. As soon as I realized how good Lando was, it came every week but 1. As soon as we got Entei, it came 3 to 4 weeks. I don't think there was a week in which we didn't bring Dragapult. Mega Medi, it came a lot of the weeks. Finny Florges, they came every week. Not Finny Florges. Mandy Florges, they came every week. Finny, I did actually think it came all but 1 week. All but 2 weeks. Came all but 2 weeks. It was... I relied a lot on the top end of this draft, and I think that also kind of hurt because it felt like the lower parts of my draft weren't as useful. So, I think there's a lot to be learned. I think that drafting for singles is kind of something that I don't feel as comfortable with yet, but I feel like if I can kind of recognize, like, synergies between certain Pokemon, that's what it's going to be important. And realize that certain Pokemon do, like, it's not about, like, oh yeah, these types are good. It's about, okay, so this Pokemon is good, what is it not like? Say I pick a really offensive beast. Say I pick up Dragapult again. I'm like, all right, what's a good switch into that? Like, what is Dragapult not like? It doesn't like its fairies and its darks and its ghosts and its ice like hitters, right? So we pick up things that can do that, but also it's about bringing in what those Pokemon like. So as I said before, something that Flygon suggested was a Mega Venusaur. And I think Sam suggested Tapu Bulu. Those are Pokemon that lure in certain Pokemon for other Pokemon to come in. So like Tapu Bulu would have lured in Poison types that Landorus would have been able to deal with, and Mega Venusaur would have lured in Psychic types that Dragon Ball would have been able to deal with. So that sort of synergy is like that sort of synergy is something something that's really important. So yeah, it was yeah, Tapu Bulu also would have been good because it would have incentivized poison and fire coverage, which Dragapult is something really good to switch in on that. So like having a Pokemon that you could reliably switch into the counters to those Pokemon would have been nice. And that was when, like, Mega Mawile would have been good, because there was like, cool, you bring a fire type in for Mega Mawile, and then Dragapult comes in. You bring in a fairy type for Dragapult, Mega Mawile comes in. So, like, that's where that would have worked, and it's just like, I don't think I provided my offense with the right supporting pieces. I guess the best example of that kind of working was, and something I tried to do was Mandibuzz into Entei. Like, that would bait in the fairies and Entei could come in. So, yeah, like, I think that was one of the few things. But, like, if I had more, say, like, I don't know, like, more poison weeks, which I guess I kind of did, but it was never really working, whereas, like, bringing a poison type against my Florges and then Medi comes in. So, a lot, and I guess, like, poison and steel, so, like, the whole, like, bringing stuff to beat fairies and then Medi kind of worked, but I don't think it, like, I don't think I utilized that option as much as I could have. But yeah, I don't feel like I can talk about this for much longer. So I'm going to kind of wrap it up here. Kind of closing thoughts are, I have a lot to learn about singles draft. I think there's a lot of in-depth things that I kind of really haven't picked up on, especially when it comes to drafting. I feel like my play definitely could be better as well. I feel like sometimes I wasn't comfortable pulling a trigger when I knew what was going to happen. I didn't feel comfortable pulling a trigger. But yeah, there's a lot I need to learn, and I'm willing to learn. So that's why I like to do these, because I'm willing to learn, like, where did I go wrong? And a lot didn't feel right. But also it's kind of like, what's my playstyle, and what can I make a draft around that to, to support that kind of playstyle. And I feel like this draft had its pieces in which it did support it, but I feel like I probably should have focused on the more defensive playstyle that I kind of much prefer, that slow defensive kind of playstyle. And this team really didn't do it as well as I think I could have. So I think that's something I need to think about. So yeah. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.